Major support provided by CHEVRON, the Kern County Superintendent of Schools, EDISON International, Valley Strong Credit Union, California Resources Corporation, Panama Buena Vista Union School District, Bakersfield City School District, and the Kern High School District, with additional production assistance provided by these supporters of education in Kern County and throughout the state of California.
Hey, it is time. Once again, everyone's favorite part of the show, math in the real world. We want to know where the heck these numbers come into play with people of all occupations, people all around Kern County. So today, we're here with my friend Robert Riggs, who is a pilot on one of these amazing helicopters here for the Sheriff's Department. Robert, thanks for your time today.
No problem.
Gosh,
glad to have you.
I'm so interested in all the things that happen in this place, but let's start at the beginning.
Okay.
Were you an officer on the ground before you got a chance to fly?
Yes. The Sheriff's Department usually hires from within as far as pilots and trains. Okay. So if you want to fly with the Sheriff's Office, typically you have to be a deputy first. So I did about 15 years on the streets before coming into there.
You put in your time then.
I did.
Did you know how to fly before then?
I did. I came to the Sheriff's Office as a pilot.
Okay.
And then knowing that I wanted to eventually be in the air unit, I started as a mechanic here in the air unit and then became a deputy. I was a pilot at that time too, and then put in my time on the streets. Mine was a little longer than most, and then come over here as a senior deputy, and now I fly them.
Wow, that sounds really interesting, and it sounds like you really have to know this position and this role from all angles. Like you said, mechanic, right? And know what happens on the ground, because you're relaying information back and forth to people on the ground.
Absolutely.
I'm sure people have seen the sheriff's helicopters around in the air, right, in Kern County. What is the main reason that a sheriff's helicopter would go up in the air as opposed to just sending a ground crew to a specific incident or scene?
So we fly every night. We try and be up 4 hours a night, and our primary mission is supporting the ground units. So we can typically be on scene first, anywhere around Bakersfield, and if we get a call, even if we're on the other side, we'll beat the cars there. So we can start trying to find bad guys before the other units get there, start to establish perimeters, start searching. We have specialized equipment on the helicopter. We have FLIR, which is thermal imaging. Our night sun is a big light. And then we communicate with all the departments around. So not only would we communicate with BPD and the Sheriff's Office, we can communicate with CHP, so we can coordinate a big event, and we'll typically oversee the whole event, like for a manhunt or anything like that.
So you have specific hours that you want to be in the air, and that happens every single time. Are there other specific or special times that you'd be called out to be in the air when it's not during that little 4-hour window?
Yeah, so we fly typically from 6 to 2 in the morning is our typical night mission, and we'll do 4 hours of patrol during that time. But we're on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And Monday through Friday, we have a crew available for daytime flights that we're doing today. I'm on the call-out crew, and we can rapidly respond to anything, and we're always monitoring the radio and ready to go.
Now, this hangar is here at the airport, so my curious question is, do you have to get clearance from the tower and all that fun stuff in order to take off? Are you under the same regulations, or can you guys just go to an emergency real quick? How does that work?
So we respond, right from here, and it is is a towered airport, so we have to get clearance to go. And the platform that the helicopter's on, we actually wheel it out to a pad right here, fire it up and take off, and then at the end of shift, land right back on the trailer and put it in. And the Sheriff's Department here at Kern County, we're fortunate that our main headquarters is actually tied together with our air unit. That's I haven't seen another one like that. Normally the air unit's at the airport. We're just fortunate that our main facility and the hangar are right here together.
Right.
So it makes it really nice for detectives.
And what
to come
is
over.
nice about that? What's the main advantage of having that? It seems like it's real close in proximity, which makes sense, but how does that help you all?
So any kind of a rapid response, our guys are here. Our technical investigators can be here. Detectives, if we need to get going, they're here. SWAT team on a call.
All right.
We have a big helicopter that carry all our SWAT team, and they can just respond right to the headquarters. All our equipment here, our SWAT lockers right here, right to the aircraft and gone. So it makes it really fast.
Wow, so that sounds like someone had a little bit of planning that went into this place.
It really worked out well, yeah, somebody.
All right, back with little math in the real world in a helicopter. Here we are, we got to figure out what the heck's going on here. So I brought my buddy Dan in here. Dan, how long have you been doing this?
About 3 years in October.
Wow, and were you on the ground as well before you got a chance to get in the helicopter?
No, I'm actually the only civilian pilot.
Okay.
So I'm not actually a deputy. I came from the U.S. Army.
Oh, wow. So you had a little experience in these things as well.
Absolutely.
And I was told that this actual helicopter that we're in was a military helicopter, right?
This helicopter was built in 1969. It's a Bell Kiowa Warrior OH-58.
Uh-huh.
So it's been around a while.
But it serves the purpose for what you do for the sheriff's office, right?
Actually, it was a observation platform, and also it did do some. It carried rocket pods and 50 cals and things like that.
Wow.
So you can do a lot of different stuff.
So you modified it just a little bit. For
Yeah,
what
this one is strictly observation. There's
Right.
no weapon systems added to it.
Gotcha. Okay. So, all right, I got to ask you some really simple questions.
Okay.
Helicopter.
Yep.
How in the world does this thing get off the ground? It's got to do with math, right? I mean, like, this is a little different. You don't need a long runway as an airplane does, and whatever else just takes off straight. We have a propeller over top.
Everything in this helicopter is math. Everything from the lift equation as far as how it generates lift to performance calculations, weight and balance, everything is math. Everything that we do is math, and you can see it's all numbers.
Right.
But as far as creating lift, an airplane has to move through the air to generate lift.
Right.
And our wings spin around. And so the
right.
relative airflow from the wind over the wing creates lift. So we don't actually have to move forward because the rotational velocity of the rotor blades is what gives us lift.
Right. And then, so you have a propeller over top, and you
Yep.
have a propeller on the back.
It's, rotor system, main rotor system overhead, and then the tail rotor on the back compensates for, it's the anti-torque. So torque, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction.
Right.
The tail rotor takes over the reaction.
So you really have to have both of those things working together.
Absolutely, and it's a balancing act. But every time you increase thrust or pitch on the main rotor blade with the collective, it's going to make the helicopter want to yaw because you're creating more drag in the rotor system.
right.
And so when you do that, you actually have to add pedals simultaneously.
Right. So how many things do you have going on at one time when you're just flying? I'm sure you don't even think about it anymore.
Not
It's just-
anymore, but
yeah.
at the time it's kind of hard. And when they first start training you, they usually will just give you the pedals, and then the instructor will fly with the cyclic and the collective.
Okay.
And then they'll give you the collective, and then they'll give you the cyclic.
Right.
So this is up and down. You can see the pitch in the rotor blades being added
Yeah.
and taken away.
Oh, wow.
And then the throttle's on the end of the collective.
Uh-huh.
But we don't mess with that. Once it's open, it's just on the governor. This adjusts the tip path plane of the rotor disc.
Okay.
So whether you want to go forward, backward, side to side. And then, like I said, this is your anti-torque pedals or tail rotor pedals. So it takes thrust and adds to it and takes away.
Yeah. Yeah.
So depending on how much collective you have in.
You are arms and legs and
100%.
everything, and then
and
you're
every
talking
time
to
you make
people
a
at the same
power
time.
change, you have to change whatever you're putting your feet. So
Sure.
it's a constant balancing act.
Sure, no doubt, and a lot of math involved in
Yeah,
that one. Good thing you don't have to worry about the numbers as much
No.
anymore with the experience that you have.
Yeah.
Do they have simulators for you before you start in something like this?
In the Army, they do,
Okay.
and some civilian pilot training facilities also have a simulator, but it's just not realistic because a lot of the flight that a helicopter does is what's called proprioceptive, so it's a feel of the helicopter, so you can feel
right.
what the helicopter's doing and react to it.
So
When
just
they
like
have
a driving
screens,
simulator
absolutely
can give you an idea,
Yeah.
but not really until you're moving in a vehicle.
And a lot of people get sick in the simulators because it's pretty realistic, but you're not getting the equilibrium built up like you should.
Right, right.
So
Do you enjoy what you do?
I absolutely love it every day, except for this part. This is kind of nerve-wracking.
Oh no, this is super fun, man! You get to teach me all kinds of stuff.
But
So
you-
you have altitude stuff here,
Yep.
you have speed stuff here, and then you have even like a navigational system.
This
over
is
here, right?
this is actually what we use on the ground.
Okay.
So this is our map. Here's where we are, and then we
Alright.
can adjust what map we're looking at
Man.
to see. This is a new system that we just got, and it's really fantastic.
Right.
So we thank everybody that helped pay for these because our old system was definitely different. But now we can actually have where we slew the camera onto the site wherever the incident is happening, and it has an overlay of where the roads are. So it says on here when you're looking through the camera what the road is.
Right.
Because before we'd have to be on the camera and then switching back and forth to the map
Gotcha.
to see, you know,
Right.
what road, where we're at, and then my TFO's trying to put out what location they're at, which was pretty difficult. And then the whole time I'm just flying around in circles.
Right, right.
So
Which is not so bad.
I'm an
I mean, at least
overpaid
you're
Uber
fine.
driver. It's no big
Nothing
deal.
wrong with that. Hey, math in the real world is still happening and still at the Sheriff's Department here in this helicopter. I got to know some more about the panel here because there are a lot of numbers up here and I don't know what any of them means. So where are we going to start with this?
We'll start with fuel.
Okay.
So our fuel quantity, so it's your gas gauge, whether you're full, half, or empty.
How much does this thing hold?
Ours is in pounds, and right now we're
Oh.
sitting at about 600 pounds of fuel.
Okay,
So most of our stuff that we have to do is a conversion from pounds to gallons.
right.
And depending on what the fuel type is, there's a different specific gravity for each fuel.
Right.
So Jet A, which is what we have in here right now, is 6.779 pounds per gallon.
Oh wow, that's
So we
even
have to-
lighter than water.
Yep, it is. And so we have to take that and divide it by 6.779 to get how many gallons per hour we're using. But we also have a fuel totalizer that will tell us how many gallons are in the aircraft
Oh, gotcha.
and what the gallon per hour flow rate is.
Right.
So any adjustment.
How much
yeah.
fuel does this thing burn
We
every
burn
hour?
about 23 gallons of fuel an hour. And that's
Wow.
in a cruise condition. We can burn up to 28 if we're in a hurry. So depending on how much demand
If we're in a
putting
hurry.
on the engine,
Right.
if we're trying to get to a call in a hurry, we
Yeah.
can burn up to 28 gallons. an
So
hour.
about 3 hours in the air, and you got to go back and start looking for some refueling options. right?
Usually about 2 hours is when our
Okay.
bodies are pretty much done. So the engine in the helicopter will always outlast us.
All right, that's fair. And we have volts about
Yep.
what's going on here. You told me
Volts,
about that
how many
earlier?
volts are coming into the system. We can
Right.
also adjust that to temperature,
Right.
Celsius, and then we can go back to density, altitude, and then voltage. 100% rotor RPM. Our rotor RPM is in a percentage
Okay.
based on a number set by the manufacturer. Airspeed limitations, all in knots, not miles per hour. So a lot of people always ask us, well, how fast are you going? Well, 100 knots. Well, that doesn't
Sure.
mean anything to a lot of people who don't know the difference
Right.
between knots and airspeed. So it's usually like 115, 120 miles an hour we can get from call to call. And then when we're orbiting, it's about 70 miles an hour.
Okay,
So.
gotcha.
And then engine oil pressure, everything, it's all numbers.
Sure.
Temperature of the engine oil and percentage torque, which is how much demand we're putting on the engine. And then the degree Celsius in the combustion chamber, it adjusts depending on how much fuel we put in there.
Right. So real quick, right before we hear about how young people can get involved, which is the outlay or the display that you look at the most?
The
Which
one that I
do you
look
have
at
your eye on?
Most of the time, it's these two right here.
Okay.
Torque and temp.
Okay.
So I want to know how much I'm putting on the engine and,
Right.
and what I can get away with without over torquing or over temping the engine because it's all manual.
Right.
It won't let me know that, hey, you're about ready to over temp me.
No big lights,
You just
but you
do
gotta
it,
take
yeah,
care of
and then you get in trouble for it.
There you go. That's
Not
fair.
really.
Okay. Hey, we've been inside the helicopter. Now we got a little bit outside the helicopter. We have to know some extra information how the math works here. Dan, tell me about this thing in the front here because it
So-
sounds like you use it a lot.
We do, and at night, this is our go-to tool that we use to help find people, but we have a FLIR. This is a FLIR system. It's a thermal imaging camera. This is the lens for the thermal imager. This is the lens for the camera portion. And then we also have a laser identifier that we can look at targets at. And he can point out, my TFO who sits in the right seat can point out a target to me so I can maintain an orbit over a particular scene, and I can tell where he's looking through my goggles, my night vision goggles that I wear at night. These amplify the ambient light, whether it be from the moon or starlight or terrestrial light. It takes that ambient light and magnifies it 3,000 times. So then I can actually get an image and I can see in the dark.
Yeah. So when this camera moves, it's someone sitting next to you that's making it move or looking at something
The
specific?
tactical flight officer
Okay.
uses a joystick, which is in the passenger seat, and I can show you that.
Oh, I see.
And he runs it like it's basically it's a game. It's a game box. So it's almost like an Xbox controller, and
Right.
you can adjust azimuth, and you can go from side to side and get a degree angle on it. But
Wow. And what magnification does the camera have? How far can you zoom in?
this one, it's I think it's like a 2x
Okay.
system, but it's kind of an older system, but it's still really functional. So,
Sure.
And it's analog. but it helps us find
Heck
people.
yeah, no doubt. Now, when we see the big spotlight up when the helicopter flying around, if I see that pass by my house,
Yep.
where is that light? Is that these lights here?
That's on the back.
On the back?
That's actually,
Can we
yeah,
see it?
Absolutely.
We gotta see
Let's
the
go.
big light.
Okay, let me set this down.
Because that's what I think we probably recognize the most
This
at
is
nighttime. Oh,
this
there it
is our Spectra Lab night sun, and so this is also on a gimbal, and he controls this with another hand controller, and
Right.
we aim it at whatever scene we're looking at or whatever we're trying to find.
And can we measure this in candle power?
How many
or
lumens?
Lumens, there you
yeah,
go.
I want to. It's in the millions.
All right.
Yeah, 1 million lumen, I think, is what they said. Actually, you can
we
see it on the side.
I know
here,
anyway
watts
how-
and volts.
I know anyway how bright it seems when I'm on the ground.
Yeah.
What is your average altitude that when you shine this light, and so we can get an idea of how far that light is going and it's still that bright?
It's usually about 500 feet is
Okay.
what we do most of our patrol at when
Gotcha.
we're on a scene. It's 500 feet above ground level.
Right, and that makes a radius of.
It
Any idea?
varies. You can focus it.
Oh, you
It's
can
conical,
focus
so
it
you
too.
can bring it down to about 20 feet and then
Right.
do a whole block,
Gotcha. Wow.
depending on your altitude.
So many options. Yeah, we've been inside the helicopter, now we're outside. We gotta know, Tim, we gotta know how the heck a young person gets involved in something like this.
So, well, there's a couple options. So we have two distinct kind of programs running through here. We have the law enforcement side and then we have the aviation side.
Okay.
So anybody interested in the law enforcement side, which could potentially lead to this, I'd encourage them to contact the Sheriff's Department. We have a cadet program that generally 15 and a half year old about through age 20, they can
Okay.
come in and learn the different job skills and things of what deputies do. They go out and they work at the fair. They'll ride along with deputies.
All
They
right.
do competitions where they learn, the skills of being a police officer and compete against other groups.
Good.
So it's kind of a really cool thing that they do.
Yeah.
And we have a good support system for that here. On the aviation side, there's a couple options. Civil Air Patrol, which is right across the field from us. They take kids generally, I think it's through high school and on up. But they'll take you out, teach you all the aviation stuff, how to do search and rescue, and you get to go on actual flights and trainings and things like that.
There you go.
We locally have a college here, California Aeronautical University. It's run through, I think, Santa Barbara College, and they'll take you from not knowing anything up to a commercial pilot, instructor, all kinds of things. So there's many options. Even one of our local high schools, North High School, has an aviation program.
Right,
So
yeah, I've heard
anybody
so.
interested in that, there's lots of options.
Some of the local high schools have all kinds of programs, simulators and so many options. Wow, it's just amazing. Well, we are so appreciative of your time today. I know I learned a ton. I know that some of our viewers learned a ton. We have our super duper famous do the math tile we want to present you with, and maybe
wow.
we can,
That's
instead of a
awesome.
t-shirt, or a mug, no one gives a tile, but do the math does.
I can put the mug
It's
on it.
important. That's right, there you go, exactly. Put
Thank
the
you,
mug right
that's
on top
very
of
cool.
it. Yeah, we're just so grateful for the time that we spent here. We learned a bunch, and who knows, we may have to come back here sometime soon. For now, we're signing off from the Sheriff's Department.